Hello everyone, and welcome again to Jane and Richard's Medusa Games Sunday evening stream. So, we're still in the middle of a lockdown here in England at the moment, and I know wherever you're tuning in or watching this later, lots of parts of the world are obviously still subject to restrictions. On last week's episode, we talked about some of the ways that you can play games with family and friends. The sort of games that don't require anyone else to have anything much in the way of tech at all, apart from a smartphone or an iPad, and homemade games and so on, and ways of playing board games that are easily adaptable in that way. This evening we're going to talk more about how to play more heavyweight board games, role-playing games, and more in-depth things using some of the tech that's available.
Yeah. So to start with, let's have a look a bit about the basics of things. We mentioned sort of basics last week when you were playing those games with the family. You didn't really need an awful lot of technology. You don't necessarily need huge amounts for doing what we're doing here, but some of these apps and things that we're going to show you a little bit can be a little bit more demanding, particularly if you are running the games yourself. So generally, you need to make sure you've definitely got a good internet connection. I remember when I was trying to show Tabletopia, I think it was to a friend, and he just couldn't get the thing loaded, and we just were waiting for 10, 15, 20 minutes, and eventually I asked him what he was running it on, and what he said was he was running it on a laptop that was hooked up to a mobile phone. There was actually the hotspot that was connecting. And then later we established the fact that this laptop was about 10 years old as well. So there are some limitations for this. You do require a certain amount of technology, a reasonably up-to-date computer. It doesn't have to be massively powerful, preferably a reasonable graphics card. And I think there are advantages for having headsets if you're playing to stop the echo effect that sometimes happens. If you've got particularly people in a room, together and things, headsets and microphones can certainly can help if other people are joining from afar. Okay, so you also need technology now. Some people are using things like Zoom and things to connect up to play games. There's a lot to be said for what we tend to use a lot of is Discord. Now, Discord is more complicated than Zoom. So far as to just join a Zoom meeting, all you need is the link. You just click on the link and that's it. You're in. You might need a password, but that's about as far as it goes. You're straight into that sort of connection, and you're able to talk. However, in order to be able to share a lot of sort of information and show things and pass information backwards and forwards and use to do a lot of gaming things, I think there's something like Discord has more facilities, but as a result, it is more complicated at the first glance. So when you first get into a thing, you're presented by something like what I'm showing you here. Depending on which server it is, you may well be in somebody's welcome channel. If it's a private channel, a sort of a home users channel, like this is my Monday night group, you can see there that we haven't really got much in there apart from a general text channel and a couple of audio channels. Our Medusa channel has a lot of different channels going on with meeting rooms and demonstration channels, which we've used for some of the conventions and things, haven't we?
Probably just worth talking through the Medusa channels actually, just to give people an idea of the way it works.
Yeah.
So as you see, we've got our welcome channel at the top, if you just want to click on that one, Richard.
Yeah.
And that one is the thing that people would normally come into. So at conventions and so on, we'd always link our stand to put people into the welcome channel.
Yeah.
And then you can see, tells them that they're there, gives them a place to go to the general text channel for messages. There's also a link to our shop if they want to do that. And a way for them to invite other people to join the server by sharing the link so that other people can join in as well.
Yeah.
Then you've got the general channel, which is where there's a lot of stuff in there.
Yes.
That's where we've used for actually talking to people at conventions and that sort of thing. If you're not just texting, because obviously one of the problems with any sort of virtual thing is in the real world, if you're manning a stand, you can see people walking towards you.
Yes.
In this sort of world, you can't. But what people can do is they can put something in the text channel, and then you can get back to them.
Yes.
And there are ways of talking and contacting anybody. So if you want to just show somebody how you would just talk directly to me, if you so wished.
Yeah. If I could find you on there, well, there you are. So I might just right click a new message, and I'll be firing off a message to you, for example.
So that's the way that you can actually contact somebody. You discover that 10 minutes ago somebody popped by and you missed them. You can then send them a message directly. Then the next channel down on our list is our shop, which goes through to buying the games and links through to our main website. Then we have voice channels.
Yes.
So these are when you actually want to talk to somebody. So if you're playing a demonstration game, for instance, you need somebody to be able to talk to you so you can talk them through it. So you tell them to go there. And if you go a little bit further down, you'll see we actually have a set of demonstration channels.
Yes.
So we typically say, can you move to demo 1, both text and voice? In the text, we would then put in, if you want to just click on that, a link to whatever we were doing. We were using Tabletopia, so there's a link for Let's Play 9 Worlds. They click on that, takes them through, and then on the demo 1 voice, you can go in and talk them through it.
So the key thing about this is that the and probably it's simpler to have a quick look at one of my it's a private group that we use for sort of one of the game groups that are on a Monday night, and here we've just set up, when I first set it up, I simply set up one text channel and a general audio channel and a side audio channel. So the idea of that is that if we're playing a game and I want to have a private word with somebody, give them some information that maybe they haven't got in the everybody else hasn't got access to, then I could potentially drop into that side channel. And when you first set up a server on Discord, if you're setting it up, then you'll decide how many channels, and all that you really need at the basic level is one text channel and one audio channel. And when people first come into the server, you can say in the setup of the servers where you want them to first arrive. And the key thing normally is that once they've found their way into the server, they've got to be able to actually talk to you and communicate with you. And that's usually the little trick, isn't it? Sometimes with Discord, when people have got a bit confused, usually it's that business of where am I? How do I find my way through to the bit where you'll be able to talk to people? And if there is a fault with Discord, it's that you're often presented by something, particularly when you're going to a convention like Medusa, or even more complicated, where there are many channels.
So if you want to click on the Spiel Digital, we've got the exhibitor booths for our server still open. If you want to click into that, so this was where our thing was, but you might not have gone into Medusa, you've probably gone to the top of the list, and there's a whole load of different people who had stands there, and you have to scroll down to find your one. So that's obviously quite confusing. If you go back to the Medusa channel again, then the other thing you can do in Discord, if you go a bit further down, below our demonstration channels, we also had meeting rooms, and then we also had staff only. So you can set the permissions.
You can set it to private. Okay, but what we're talking about here is now getting a little bit more complicated when it comes to the different things you can do with Discord. At the basic level of using it for the purposes of playing a game with your friends, somebody needs to set, if they were going to use it, would just set up a Discord server, and this group is called Monday Nighters, because that's when our Monday night group meet. And I set up the server, I sent the invite to everybody, and then as you can see, people pop in and out, and this is where they come to share the information required for playing our games.
So I'll just pop into the voice channel. There I am.
And
so I'm all ready to go.
And you're ready to go and things. Okay. We've got one or two different servers. I set up a couple for a couple of different groups. You don't have to do that. You can just have one. Anyway, there we go. So, the use of Discord allows you to talk and also to share text information, and as you can see in this particular one, also to share links perhaps to information that you might need in your game, perhaps images and pictures, people sharing files that people might need to download, and maps and things like that, and that's where it can be very useful.
So you can in fact run a whole role-playing type of game
Yeah,
entirely just in Discord, especially if it's one of those that's not very heavy on the sort of the rules and the dice rolls, something like Call of Cthulhu, or that
something
sort of
like that.
thing.
All you need really is maps, and then you can share images and pictures. What some people do is they use something like Discord to talk, and then they might also have a Google folder or something like that where they share the actual files that they can all go back to as well. That's another way of doing it. Now, if you're going to do that, you would then need some means of rolling dice. So, I think in the Medusa server, I've got a dice little program. I think I added on as an experiment at one time. So there's several of these that you can just find online that you can just download and bolt on to Discord. So this dice parser thing there just works on the basis of I type !1d6. It will roll a 6-sided dice for me and give me a random roll, and that will work with any form of dice. D100, D 20s, that sort of thing.
Another important thing we haven't mentioned yet is that the Discord thing and so on is basically it's free at the basic level.
Yes, it is. Yes, this is all free, so it's an easy way to get it all set up and to communicate.
And once you've got it going, you can also use it if you're playing standard computer games that are multiplayer.
Yeah.
So something like Lord of the Rings Online that I play.
Yeah.
You can have something like that, and you can also have Discord running as well.
Yes.
So Lord of the Rings is one of these games where you're encouraged to form groups with other people, not necessarily people you know, people from wherever. And a lot of those groups have their own Discords that they use when they're playing.
Well, in fact, that is where Discord came from. Discord was originally designed for computer gamers to be able to communicate and talk to each other. A lot of people have used it for an awful lot more than it was originally designed for this year. Where perhaps people have struggled at times a bit with aspects of it is because it wasn't originally designed to do a lot of the sort of stuff that we're trying to do with it these days.
And to be fair to them, they have redesigned a lot of their stuff in the last 6 months or so. So I've never used it at all before April. We all started doing these other things, and since then they've had several redesigns because of the fact that it used to have a lot of fairly geeky gamey language in there, and they've taken that away because people are now using Discord to hold PCC meetings or dance classes or whatever it might be, all sorts of stuff.
Discord also does allow videos as well, of course. Down here I can launch a video. It probably won't work on this computer because of course I'm running it for the streaming software at the moment, but that would fire off my thing. I can also
video and screen, so you can share a screen.
I can share a screen in there, which would decide what screen I want to share, and that also, of course, can be used in running games, if you want. Okay, so let's look at a few ideas for running games. I'm going to start off here with a war game. Now, one of the things, the war game was actually the main attraction in many ways is having actual figures and moving them around the table and all this sort of stuff.
So I'm just going to move out of camera now, so I'm standing around by the display.
Yeah. So a little bit of a small little sit-down war battle going on here.
And we are just using an iPad to show this, and it's just an iPad linked into the computer.
That's right. Now, but you could use obviously webcams. You can another means of getting the picture into shot. Probably the smaller the miniatures might work better. These are actually 28mm miniatures, so there's obviously a limited amount I've got in this particular shot. But of course, you could set up with several cameras at your disposal. We're doing this in Zoom, so this is actually an image that I'm trapping from a Zoom meeting. And if you've got more than one device, you can have several. You could connect up by several things.
So here we've got physical dice to be rolling.
Yeah.
Equally, of course, you could link this to one of those dice online things. We're talking about the one in Discord or whatever else.
And that's fine. So basically, we can play the game. Now, what's necessary with this, of course, is that someone who's got the game set up can do the measurements and can move the things around and follow the instructions of the other people that are playing the game. For that reason, it's sometimes either you have to have a little bit of a sort of easy on attitude to sort of measurements and things, because obviously it's a little bit more fiddly added over online, or you could use something like a hex map or a grid type map in order to make it easier to show. But providing people are sort of reasonably relaxed about measurements and things, you can see that you can get a game going here with one person doing all the movement, but other people could be rolling their dice and keeping track of their their unit strengths and hit points or whatever else it might be.
And the point about this, of course, is that only one person needs to have anything. One person has all the terrain and the figures. One person has all the tech. Everybody else can just be looking in on a computer or a laptop or a tablet, and that's all they need.
That's all they need. So that's your basic figure war game, and I think a lot of people, that's the one area of gaming I think that I've heard several times people saying, "Oh, I'm really missing playing games. I haven't had a chance to play any games for months and things." But I've also seen a number of pictures and videos of people who are playing these sorts of games where one person will do this. Now, the other way of doing it, of course, with war games and things is to play board war games, the sort of with the counters and things. So here on the screen now we've got Vassal. So Vassal is a software which is designed for running. At its heart, really, it's designed for running these sort of chit and hex sort of board games, as they're called. These old style in some ways games, but there's still a lot of people play a lot of these games. I mean, I go back
We've got quite a few of them in this room.
Yeah, there's lots in here. And go back to university days back in the 80s, I can remember one of my friends having them all over his walls with sort of blue tacked pieces and things like that, and so on. Now, Vassal was very good for supporting email. Play by mail situation.
Because that's the other thing, of course. Yeah. Back again, up until probably only in the last 10 years or so, I mean, there are still a few play by mail where people actually post things. There used to be an awful lot of games that way, where you would do your move, you'd write out your orders, you'd put them in the post, there'd be a deadline by which everyone's orders had to be received, then whoever was running the game would do all of that and then write back to people and say, this is now the situation, what are you going to do? And of course that was play by post mail, but there's no reason why it can't be played by email, and that obviously makes it much quicker. You
can see what's happening here as I'm moving these little counters around. This is actually the Battle of France, 1940. Well, the first board war games actually bought it. You're moving the pieces, and up here it records and logs the moves, so that if you are playing this by email, then you can review, if you so desire, what the other person has done. Some of the Vassal applications, and most of them I think, are designed where you still be rolling the dice and then resolving them, and the charts are all built into here. Now there are many modules for Vassal. It says on the wrong chart here. Where are we? Here we go. On this screen here, you can see now that this is the page that lists all the modules that are available for Vassal, and there are, I think, somewhere it talks about 2,500 and something adaptions and things. So you literally just click on this, and you grab your module and download it, and then open up Vassal and load the module.
And is this something you have to pay for, Vassal?
No, Vassal's free. It's an open source game, and I think basically all the modules are free as well. There are donation things you can do to support it, but that's basically designed for this type of play, which there's really there's not an awful lot of automation to it. You're moving the pieces around, but it is a way to play those games. Now, one thing it can do is the counters can store within them, sort of electronically within the game, sort of the state of that particular unit and things like that, and it can reflect that in the game.
And whereas the figure war game that we showed is something that you can do over a camera, those sorts of games with all the little tiles you really couldn't do.
Well, it'd be very difficult for people to sort of to see that sort of that kind of a map and be saying. And that anyway, you can read out, you can tell them the hex number and all this sort of stuff, but it's over on a voice thing. It would not be easy to do, but done by electronically like this, by passing the moves backwards and forwards, it can work pretty well. And Vassal's been around for a long time. It's in some ways quite old-fashioned now, looking now, but it does what it was originally designed to do pretty well. So that's sort of a bit of an idea, of some ideas for what to do with war games. So if we move on now to having a look at some of the ways of doing board games. So we're of course quite familiar with this here. This is obviously Tabletopia. It says. Hang on a minute. Just trying to get it back up on the screen. There we go. This is Tabletopia, and if I just log into Tabletopia for a minute. Actually, before I do that, I just want to quickly show you here in the About section something about the pricing of this. So the different things have different sort of price levels. So Tabletopia, designed for playing board games, has these 3 levels of bronze, silver and gold for players. It's also very good for designers because you can put your own games in here as well, and there are levels of costs and things for designers. Now the basic level, it's free. The bronze level, it's free. You can have up to 2 games running. The reason why you might want more games is because you may be playing it by mail again, or by turn based, where you do your turn and wait for someone else to do their turn. But silver is only $5 US a month, and even the gold level only $10 US a month. You know, up to 10 simultaneous games being played with that. So this isn't hideously expensive. So I'm just going to log in. Get into there. Oh, wasn't happy with that.
Okay, so I'm actually already logged in to Tabletopia.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I am going to launch a game.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I am going to put an invite into the Discord thingy.
Yeah.
For you, so that you can come and join me.
Okay, sounds like a plan.
So I'm going to put this into the demo 1 text channel.
Right, so
on
if we go back here to the Discord here. Here we go. This is what we're talking about here. We're going to go into the demo 1 text channel, and Jane's going to be dropping the link in there. There it is. So in order to play the thing, I click on the link here.
And you could do this if you've not been involved with Tabletopia at all. I've sent you an external link, so anybody that's not even logged in could just click on that and go straight through.
Yeah, and here we go back to Tabletopia. Here you can see that we're in this game, and Jane's already in there with one player. So I just click in there and I take my seat, and I click the ready, and off it goes to join to launch the game.
It's going to load up. I picked 9 Worlds because out of our games, 9 Worlds is one of the quickest ones to load.
Yeah.
We have all of our games in there, but Flying Machines in particular is so big that it takes a long time to load.
Yes. Yeah.
But the point about this again is that although Tabletopia is free, a lot of the games are free on there. There are some premium ones, but most of them are free.
Yes.
So again, if you have friends that want to do this, once you've got them into Discord, you go into Tabletopia, you launch the game, you send them the link, and all they have to do is click on the link in Discord.
That's
they don't
right.
have to do anything else in order to get themselves
and if it's one of the games that's on there, you don't need to, as I say, they don't have to even have an account. They can just join as a guest. Somebody has to have an account, but that can be a free account if it's for any of the free games, which all of ours are, but so are a lot of others. And here we go, we're into the game now. Jane's set up.
And the thing about Tabletopia is you can do lots of things in it. So, for instance, we've got this bag here, and so if Richard wants to right-click on a bag, and just to show
a few pieces out of it, there they come.
Yeah.
I can rotate the board. I can move the board in and out. I can pick up pieces and move those pieces around like this, and these pieces like that.
And this is the blue hand you can see is me.
Yeah, red hand is
me. I can be doing stuff.
We take a card and we can flip the card over, move things around. So Tabletopia is what they call a sandbox thing. It's basically you are literally, as it were, through the virtual hands that we've got here, moving the pieces around.
Yes.
And I really quite like it because of that feel of the fact that you're actually other people are there and other people are there, and if you've got yourself set up in Discord, so you're talking to your friends in Discord, and then you can see their hands moving around, and to the extent that actually if someone tries to pick something up where you've got your hand over it as well, sometimes actually it becomes you get in each other's ways and things, and
have a bit of a tug of war going on. And there's also, you should also show people the rules that you can have in there as well.
So down here there is the rules, so you can pick up the rules and you can flip through those. These are James will load this up in German, but our rules are in English as well as German.
Yeah, the reason I loaded the German ones is just that there's hundreds of games on Tabletopia, but there's only 69 games on Tabletopia in German, and including all 4 of ours. So it's a quick way to find our games.
Now this particular setup that Jane has chosen is also the one that has all of the 9 world pieces in. So you see there are actually bags for all of the pieces. So we've also got setups for 3 players, 4 players, 5 players and 6 players that just has just those pieces all preset on the board. This one's designed for people who already know the game and are wanting to pick their own pieces, pick their own treasures and sagas if they're playing with the expansion thing here.
And actually, just to show this is so the player card there. If you want to have a look at that, Richard, it's in German, but you can also then flip it over and it's then in English. So if I
do that, that'll be the English side, you see. So it's in both. Okay, so that's Tabletopia. So Tabletopia is, the one thing about it is it doesn't run the game for you. You see, nothing's telling me to do anything here. Nothing's telling me pick up that piece, move it there, do this, do that.
So really, somebody needs to know it. Or, of course, if there's a game you want to play and you don't know how to play it, the rules are there. But you might want to take a bit of time. You might want to actually download them. So if you go back to the lobby and so on, you can show there's information when you're choosing from games in general in Tabletopia. There's information there that
if I go back into Playground and go into,
and you can even download the rules, I think, can't you?
Yeah, you can look at the rules from there. So say we're looking at here at Wingspan here. I could go into Wingspan and I could have a look at it. There are videos here on the right hand side. There are also options for playing solo, hot seat, or where you share one computer or play online, and the rules are here as well. So I can grab the rules. It'll take me off into a PDF of the rules, just like that. So that is Tabletopia, that's that.
Of course, it's a very good way of playing, but it does depend on the owner of the game.
Yes.
The actual publisher having put it onto Tabletopia.
It's got to exist on there in the first place, and like I say, there are some games which are premium. And so if you go into Wargames here, and if I choose, so we have premium ones, there are 58 games currently on there as premium games.
The other thing about Tabletopia, of course, is that it's got its own Discord server, and you can go on there if you want to just play games with whoever happens to be online. There's a whole way of just finding people that way.
Okay, so let's move on to now. I think that's similar to Tabletopia, just to mention, is Tabletop Simulator, which this is Tabletop Simulator. So it's the launch window of. For some reason, I was struggling here to sort of get the to get it to show me the Tabletop Simulator inside this streaming software. So I'm not going to delve into this in great detail right now, except to say that Tabletop Simulator is also an alternative to Tabletopia. So it's also a sandbox thing. It also does things in 3 dimensions. It allows you to move the pieces around, rotate the table. It works in fundamentally the same way. The differences are that with Tabletop Simulator, you have to buy the software and install the software, and everybody that wants to play the game, I think, has to have the software bought. And then what you do normally is there is a certain number of games that come built in, and then there are most of the other games that you might want to play are effectively add-ons that you either go and buy the modules for. But there's quite a lot of people that swear by Tabletop Simulator because it's been around quite a bit longer than Tabletopia. So it's got its own community of players.
And of course, it depends what games you want to play, because again, we only have our games on Tabletopia. A lot of people only have their games on Tabletop Simulator. So depending what games you're looking for,
Yes.
you have to go to the place where they are.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think it's I think it's horses for courses. For, you decide which one you prefer of those two. The next one we're going to have a look at here, though, if we go back to this screen, I have to come out of my view that I'm on here. There we go. And I'm going to go into Board Game Arena. So Board Game Arena is another one which you play in a browser window. So you're not installing it like Tabletop Simulator, like Tabletopia. You play this in a browser. So you just go to Board Game Arena and you get your account gone, and now you look for games. And the difference between these is that Board Game Arena is a much more of a sort of almost like a digital conversion of a game.
So it's got the AI. It won't let you do illegal moves or whatever. It knows some of the rules and stuff.
Yes. So you could go into the game and it will literally tell you how to play the game. Will move you through the game. Here we have a little watch a game in progress here. Let's go into one of these. You can go in as a observer in both Tabletopia and Board Game Arena. So here we have a couple of players playing, and we're a spectator while we wait for them to make their move. So you see in this, it actually tells you at the top, Aaron F must place a tile, and as he's placed the tile, it's then he's popped his little meeple on. Now it's Akaku who must place a tile. Then he's placed his tile,
Okay, so
and he may place a meeple and so on.
Yeah. We best move off their game.
Really? Well, no. It's you're allowed to be spectators in these games. That's one of the whole points about it. Is that, and in fact, interestingly, I'm not interfering with it. By being here, I'm not mucking up their game or talking to them at all. They're just getting on with their game themselves, and you can just watch it. And in fact, the World Championships of some of these games. So the Carcassonne, I think it was the European Championship, was actually played using Board Game Arena. Quite a few of the ones of Virtually Expo were using Board Game Arena, and you could go in and watch the games being played if you were so desired. Okay, so that's the board games. So now I want to have a quick look at some of the ways of doing role playing games online. Yeah, so we have a quick look at.
We've already talked about the very basic ones, the sort of where you just use Discord or Teams or any other conference call type software, Zoom, have a meeting and just literally talk things through. But if you want to go the next level up from that, then have a look at some of the systems that do actually do some of the work for you.
There's a couple of systems there. So this is Fancy Grounds, and this is the one I tend to use mostly. Just because I basically got into using it early on in the lockdown period, actually been using it a bit for playing actual physical tabletop games at the UK Games Expo office, and we've been playing the games with initially around a table. But because this had all the maps on, we sort of did a hybrid system whereby the maps and the movement of the pieces was done on the computer, but we still used the pen and the paper and the dice and things to resolve it. And then when the lockdown did happen, we converted across and basically started playing the games there. And then since then, I've been running a couple of games a week myself using this. This is actually loaded up a demo game which you can have a go at yourself.
And this game, you can have a go at this for free.
Yes, you can go for your see. So this is Fancy Grounds. So Fancy Grounds has two bits of two applications. There is Fancy Grounds Classic and Fancy Grounds Unity, which is their new one, which I think is like a sort of beta. It's still in development. Fancy Ground Classics is what we're showing you here. And when you go to the Fancy Ground website, you can just download the basic level installation for free. Only one player, the GM, needs to actually have a paid for subscription at the start at least. So you can just get someone who buys the license, the ultimate license as it's called, and everybody else just can just log in and join that campaign using the basic using software.
So, for instance, our Wednesday night group that I play with you, and so does our son, and then we have a couple of other people in other places, and you have one license to GM it, and the other 4 of us all just log in for free and play.
Yeah, that's right. And so you see that basically the what would normally happen in playing the games, there would be several characters all joined up here. This little demo one is me running the game effectively as a GM and sort of playing it sort of solo. But here we are. Pick up the Tanner bloke here, and he is a fighter. And I can get him to I can drag him to move 5, 10, 15, 20 feet, and then I can target. Click him, click the target, and then I can go here and he's going to clobber him with his Morning Star, why not? So he rolls that, and if you see down here it says attack 12 at Hobgoblin, and it missed, so it knows the Hobgoblin. If I click on the Hobgoblin, it'll bring up his armour class was 18, so my 12 clearly wasn't going to be good enough. And if we carry on now, we'll move on to the next player, which is this Gold Dragon in the next room. we may let him just wander around the room himself over here, 'cause it's probably a bit too high level for this particular party.
So that sample there is of D&D.
Yeah.
It also, Fantasy Grounds has various systems that it supports. It also supports Pathfinder. It also supports Rollmaster. The campaigns that we've done have been Pathfinder.
Yes.
So I have a druid who has a leopard as her sort of sidekick and annoys you constantly as the GM because of the leopard's ability to knock people down.
Yeah, it's a cheaty sort of skill if ever there was one. But,
absolutely.
So here you see, this is my sort of login to the screen, and there are various campaigns that we've got in here. We had Eagles of Rome. One was a fate system, very basic, simple, just to try out the Fantasy Ground system way back in March time, and that was just a detective adventure in sort of in Rome. And then we actually started going with these 2 campaigns that we've got running here, and you'll see that you can, if I wanted to start a new campaign, I can. It will support 2nd edition, 3.5, 4th edition, 5th edition, basic role-playing Call of Cthulhu, the core system, things like Pathfinder and Pathfinder 2, and Rollmaster Classic system, and things like Savage Worlds and other systems as well. So the amount of support is a bit varied between the different levels,
and
different campaign
also,
systems.
And also when you're playing, so for instance in Pathfinder, some of the time it knows everything and it can just do it automatically. Some of the spells, for instance, or the various effects, you have to do a little bit of sort of programming yourself to get them to work.
It depends on it does depend on the system. Just going back into that one there. This is the where we were, weren't we? So probably Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition is the best supported by Fantasy Grounds, and I think it was when it was originally designed, that was what it was effectively written around. When you're playing it with Pathfinder, a lot of the individual little powers and strengths and things that things have, particularly the magic, is more it isn't as supported. So who have we got here? We've got a sorcerer. So the chances are in this system, all these magic that she's got may be completely defined, and the powers of them may work without having to do additional work. Whereas in some of the other systems, you have to do a bit of work to get the effects of spells and things to apply to the whoever you're casting the spells upon.
So, for instance, in Pathfinder, a lot of the spells are just there and that's fine. But some of them, so for instance, my bard, her general sort of encouragement that gives everybody +1s or +2s, you had to sort of almost like a little macro in order to get
Yeah,
that to then work.
that's
Once
right.
you've done it and saved it, it's there.
Once you know how it works, and once you learned some of that, yes. So there's a little bit more to do here. So these effects that are built in, you can use ones that are built in, or you can write your own. And learning what set of words makes things happen is the trick. And unfortunately, there's lots of forums which will do support each of the systems. So, and some of the very enthusiastic forums and good videos and things that you can watch. But Fantasy Grounds is definitely not for I would say, the faint-hearted to start with. You've got to be willing to put a bit of effort into it to get your head around how it works. But you can play it at a fairly basic level.
And also the getting your head round of it. I mean,
yes.
I am not very good at that sort of stuff at all, but I don't need to be, because there's you and there's also of the 5 people who play.
Yes.
2 of the others are very much into computing things.
That's right. So they'll work it out. They want to know, if you want to know what will make something fatigued or something like that, they'll go there and they'll work out what that.
And maybe one particular
is.
game night we can't get something to work, but by the next week they've already worked it out.
But you don't necessarily have to worry about that, because say you want to play a game and you're playing with people who aren't really interested in a heavyweight way, but you still want to use the maps and all this sort of stuff. Well, they can still log on. They can still move their things around, and even if they can't get their head around exactly how the character sheets here work, where the effects and the attacks and things will be, you can still, as a GM, say, well, just roll a d20 then, and you get to roll it into there, and it up comes the score, and you know that they're +4 at that particular attack, and you can tell them, right, you've got a 20, that's a hit. So now roll your damage, and providing as a GM you're willing to sort of put the work in, then you can do it that way. Now the other one that's actually on. Online as a browser, if I go back to that now, is here we are, Roll20. So Roll20 is a browser-based system for playing these games. Is also very, very well supported, and again, lots of people swear by it and say that it's and it's really good. And again, as you can see, you've got maps, and you've got stats and things all built in, so it's just an alternative, and some people say that they much prefer Roll20 to Fantasy Grounds. There's other systems that are out there. I think now that we've played quite a bit of Fantasy Grounds, I've sort of got to the point of understanding it well enough that it's just as easy to carry on using that than it is to sort of learn a new system. But I know that one or two of our friends and things use Roll20, and it's actually they say it's pretty good. I think generally for Dungeons and Dragons and for actually for Dungeons and Dragons, both systems, Fantasy Grounds and Roll20, are all very well supported. They seem to have done quite a bit of work. D&D people with both systems. A lot of the other systems aren't as well supported, and then it comes down to how easy is it for the software then to adapt to reflect the system. And I think generally the feeling is the Fantasy Grounds has a lot of ability to be adapted, but does require quite a bit more work to get it to work sometimes. So the more complicated role-playing systems like Rollmaster and things are entirely possible to do through there, but someone's going to sit down and do a lot of work to make it work.
They do have some stuff for it.
Yes, they are, but a lot of that work has been done by the community, as it were. Yeah. But I think Fantasy Grounds does support that pretty well. But again, you have to put a bit of work into it if you want to get it. So if you wanted to play role-playing games online, at the most basic level, the easiest way to do it is to use something like Discord or Zoom, and just share images and maps and things like that. Have some way that you can roll dice, which, as we've said before,
have your figures on the table, as we showed with the war game. You could do it that way if you wanted.
But the nice thing about Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds, and what is it called, Roll20, is that in both cases they support all these nice maps and things, and you can import images and maps and all sorts of things.
And actually, you can do stuff. So if you're casting a spell at somebody and they've got a saving throw, you can take the saving throw and sort of, as the player, drop it on the baddie, make them, force them to take a saving throw, and if they fail their saving throw, then you can pick up your damage and drop that on them as well, and then it rolls in the little chat window, so it makes you, feel like you're more of a part of things.
Yes, usually there's something like you can cast that upon them. Here it is. Does that work? If I drop that on there, will that work? Effect blinding and things, so that drops the effect on them. The different spells some of them require you to do a roll first in order to, like that's a saving roll one. Again, to try and avoid you would drop that on them, and it would force them to, you do the attack roll, and works that out for you.
So everything online as opposed to everything physical. Well, of course, we all want to get back to a situation where we can all meet up and do things in person.
Yeah.
But equally, I think now that these systems, they were all there before coronavirus was ever a thing. They've been around a long time. And of course, it's always the case that, you know people who live in other parts of the country or different countries that you wouldn't get to see very often. And it's certainly true that, I miss our weekend role-playing sessions when some of our friends would come and stay and we'd spend several days doing a lot of that stuff.
Definitely, yeah.
But, on the other hand, we now have a regular couple of hours every Wednesday, so we actually get to role-play more frequently.
Yes, but we don't. Yes, it would only be about 3 or 4 times a year that we come down and things.
Yeah. And so, going forward, it may well be the case that we might still do some of that.
Yes, I don't think I'd have got into doing that regular group. I mean, Monday night group I have that comes around here every Monday night anyway. So we continue that online when we couldn't do the physical world. I imagine once we're able to do the physical world again, then we'll probably get back to doing a physical meet up. But if for some reason we're not able to or whatever, then the online is an alternative. But where it's really good, of course, is for where people are a distance apart. And in the case of our Wednesday night group, that was 4 times a year, wasn't it? They'd come down for a weekend, and now we've been able to play a campaign all the way through to 5th level already in a particular campaign since March time, and we like to carry on with that. We might be able to go at Rollmaster, which is the original games, of course, we used to play with them soon. And I think that option to play stuff with friends and things that you don't see regularly is an advantage of this, and I think something that we wouldn't have tried had it not been for this lockdown and the pandemic and things.
Absolutely. And the same with board games. I mean, now that we know that things like Tabletopia exist,
yes,
when you're designing a game and trying to get it to, you need endless amounts of play testing, and it's useful to have different people play test. It's useful to actually be involved in those play tests so you can see what's happening. So up until now, the only way of getting different groups beyond the people we know anyway to do that has been to go along to conventions and get people to do it there. Whereas now we've got the option of actually inviting people to do so also in the sort of online environment, which for the purpose of getting the rules right and the balance and all the rest of it, it's another way of getting more people involved.
Definitely, yes. So there we are then. So that's our various ways of playing different sorts of games.
I suppose thinking about it, it's a bit like, in real life, there's people that you want to meet up and have a coffee with, but if you can't meet up and have a coffee, you might just ring them up and just have a chat, or you might have a video call. And it's not that any of those are superior, they're just different.
They're just different ways of doing things, and yes, we all want to get back to the real world and be able to do things in the flesh, but I think there are uses for this, and I think particularly even more so for role playing of all the formats. I think board games to some extent. I can see that basically Wargames. It's very much about that kind of game is very much about the tangible, physical sort of items and things moving around on the train and all the rest of it. So I think once the real world returns, it's likely that they'll mostly go back to playing things that way,
Yeah.
because
Although,
that's
of course, Vassal's been around a very long time.
Oh yeah, yeah. But that does allow you to play those very long-lasting, complex, strategic games and things.
Otherwise, occupy your dining room
That's
table
right,
for
yeah,
weeks on end.
They would
Yeah.
do. Right. Okay
Right,
then.
so I think that's comes to the end of our sort of summary of how to play games remotely. We've
Yeah.
been through the simple stuff
Yeah.
and also the more complicated. Obviously, there's other things out there. We're not aware of everything.
Yes.
If there's something else you think's particularly good that we never mentioned, by all means, drop into the Medusa Discord chat sometime. Leave us a message anytime.
Yeah. Or send us an email.
Yeah.
There's the links there for our sites. There's our Twitch and our Facebook and Twitter accounts and things there. Or as I say, go to the go to our website, medusagames.co.uk.
And equally, if there's anything to do with any type of gaming that you'd be interested in us just having a talk through sometime, then let us know, as we're here every Sunday, but we're always happy to have suggestions for things that you might find interesting.
Okay, well, we'll see you next week.
Okay, bye.